capabilities can be developed, but unwillingness can only be changed by the internal factors that affect the individual. And these internal factors will only express themselves in a higher expression when you put your heart into expressing yourself from a higher perspective. Yes, the first estate, the mind, that's your prime real estate. If you can't control your mind, don't worry about controlling nobody else, because you're not going to be able to do that. You have to have self-control before you can ever consider trying to control another. Once you have self-control, then you don't have to control nobody else. You can figure out that the greatest control mechanism is to open the doors to their best life so that they can progress and evolve. Now, another question I answered earlier about the Bitcoin, the gold and the silver. So I'm going to go over this economic reset. But first, I'm going to light this blunt. Now, the economic reset is going to be based on your willingness to earn. Now, you can either do it physically with manual labor, you can do it artistically with being creative and producing something from nothing, or you can do it through mental labor by thinking, exercising your thought, or you can do it through the spiritual labor, which is the highest form of labor, because the spiritual labor, it has nothing to do with anybody serving you, but it has everything to do with your willingness to serve others. So if you're not willing to serve others, then how in the fuck is you willing to be in the position of power? Power comes from the people. The collective generate who's in power, not the person that you see sitting in these what they call prominent positions. Those are imposters. The real leaders have been making moves for about 25 years now to move into a position to restore a matriarchal system. Any female that will not participate in the rearing of children that may not be theirs does not have the internal grit of a matriarch. She don't have what it takes. If she can't raise another's child as if it was her own without prejudice, no matter what race, no matter what background, that child is a blank slate. All this ugly shit y'all see going on is taught. It's educated. Nobody born prejudiced, racist. Nobody's born Democrat, Republican. Nobody's born with these pre-established hatreds of the social construct. Y'all have not yet realized that those hatreds are the tools of controlling you, because they corral you into smaller and yet smaller groups where you can have infighting among yourself. When y'all realize that, then this shit gonna take off. Because to realize that, to make the information that I'm giving you now the most important information you can give anybody. So, when the economic reset comes, it's going to be based off your energy output in the labor exchange for money according to the value of the labor you doing. It will not be based on an artificial standard in an inflation society where the inflation deteriorates the buying power of the dollar to the point where you become, in essence, working for free. Many people that I worked with worked for gas money to get to work because they barely had enough money after taxes, child support, car note, rent, food, lights, gas. Motherfucker made $2,500 this month and got $50 to spare. How you gonna get to work next week? He gotta put $50. You have to fill this bitch up. Hope you drive a little car where you can fill it up with about half that. Now he got $25 in his pocket. This is an insanity in the structure that we currently live in. Until these people realize that there's a big show going on right now to determine who's ready to receive a inherited birthright versus who is choosing to be a mindless drone worker bee, where all they can do is what the social strata of the day tell them. What's the political climate? What's the popular thing to do and say? As long as y'all focus on that, you can't get nowhere. Your God is the almighty dollar. But it's in vain. You worshiping the dollar that's falling. It's actually fell. And this is what all of the stimulus checks, which was another question that came and posed, where's the stimulus checks? You're not going to need none with this shit flipped. As soon as y'all get to the point to understand the value of the information and flipping the system, it's directly tied to your ability to affect somebody you know in relaying this information. We already did the work. I'm waiting on my trip home for my downtime before I take flight on these motherfuckers and dunk in their face. But before we do all that, you know, we got to give the people a chance to understand the condition and what's taking place. All of these, your physical form is not you. Your physical form is not you. Your physical form is your rover, like they put on Mars to navigate Earth. It is a meat modem. It is a fabricated, geometrically designed set of systems put together with sensory organs that stay not sensors. That's why they call it your senses, because you're sensing something. Your emotions is your warning lights on your dashboard to tell you what action needs to be taken according to the circumstances, situation, or the condition. Everybody think that in order to get justice, you got to run in the streets and protest. The only way you can really get justice is to withdraw from an unjust system. Totally. Don't fucking participate. But that's beyond the comprehension of people that taught that the only way to survive is to participate in the corruption. Which takes me to the next question that somebody asked about: why are they making pedophilia a thing, and why are they interested in sex with children? It's not sexual at all. It's sorcery. The misery of these children is what keeps the women in delirium. As long as y'all don't understand that, it's going to be harder to overcome the obstacle. Women, whether she sees the child in distress or not, can sense it emotively. She's directly linked to every child up until they hit puberty. But she doesn't know it. But when the child is in a certain proximity, especially if she have what you call matriarchal tendencies, she become uneasy when the child is in distress. So the more children in distress, the more matriarchs are in distress. And if you keep the matriarchs, what they call drunk off the wine of the harlot, drunk off the blood of the righteous, consumed with the imprisonment and oppression of the children, the energy that it generates is sorcery. It's a very simple way to oppress a people without them ever understanding the oppressive mechanism. Because when the matriarchs become that distressed, they have to move out away from city limits so that they can get a chance to find the nature of the problem. And then they have to find a opposing figure, a counterbalance in the male, who will fight for the children as if he was a matriarch himself, but he would be a patriarch in a matriarchal system. The job of the father is to protect the child and protect the mother, and to make sure that the home is protected so that everybody there can live in harmony and peace. The role of the woman is to give a man harmony and peace at the home so he can fight the demons in the street. You can't sleep with the fucking enemy. You can't sleep with the fucking enemy. You can't live your life constantly fighting the motherfucker you live with, love, lay next to, and expect to have a harmonious and prosperous life. Is counterproductive to any forms of success known to humanity. This is ignorance at its highest degree. Domestic violence is promoted the same as cigarettes through a prevention campaign, because it makes them believe that you are only masculine if you can beat your wife. Some of you niggas finna get a rude awakening because you gonna reach your hand up and she gonna turn your motherfucking brain off for 10 seconds and your ass gonna drop like a ton of rocks. It's just she hadn't realized for a long time her capabilities, and you dumb niggas keep doing dumb shit. I don't have a problem with either way. I'm gonna do what I know is right, whether it piss somebody off, whether it hurts somebody's feelings. If it's the right thing, sometime in order to do the right thing, you gotta chop a motherfucker in the throat, punch a motherfucker in the mouth, sock him in the eye, knee him in the balls, slug him in the gut. Sometimes you gotta grab a motherfucker in the headlock and flip him. Sometimes you gotta boot kick a motherfucker to the mouth. Sometimes you gotta do all that shit in order to do the right thing. Because this shit ain't all motherfucking love and light, peace and harmony, and whoever the fuck keep telling y'all that dumbass shit then lost they self. But it's not all doom and gloom, dark chaos energy uncontrolled. The chaos energy uncontrolled becomes a hindrance to the person. How do you make them lose control of the chaos energy? You tie them to a negative emotion. When the emotion arises and they can't deal with it because it stirs the energy too strong, they lash out. They're not going to be able to work with other females in a hive setting, in a matriarchal setting, because they can't control the energy. And when you can't control the energy, then you can't participate in the top ranks. It don't mean you fail. It just means you got your own lane you got to be in. Can't nobody fail at the game of life. You only learn your lessons. You keep taking your bumps until you learn your lessons. The pain don't go away till you get the fucking lesson. The pain don't go away until you get the lesson. The misery and the continuous lumps do not go away until you realize what that emotion trying to fucking tell you. You can get mad at everybody else and say everybody else not doing their part or whatever. That's your option. As long as you're doing yours, you can point the finger. But when you the only one that's not doing your work, you can't tell nobody else they not doing their work. Now, if you don't know a person in the physical world, and we've been living the majority of our lives with only physical eyes, you can't say they didn't do their work. Credit is given where credit is due. Even a broken vessel sometimes is stuck because it's broken. But a golden heart shines the brightest through the broken vessels. And this is why we look for the lowly, the downtrodden, the outcasts, the misfits, the black sheep, the scapegoats. This is why we look for them first. Because they can show you the path of destruction and the terror of the wickedness and the treachery that was inflicted upon us. Which brings me to another question I was asked about the indigenous people of the land. We was already fucking here. Right? We was already here. Been here. Gonna be here. We was here before there was anything called a Moor. The word didn't even fucking exist. In our language, we called it a Maru. And the people of the land was called a Maru Inca. And somebody asked us about our relation to Africa. They are cousins by overall genetic stock. and parentage of the matriarchal and patriarchal lines, the people of the motherland are cousins to the people of this land. And that's why we look like, and that's why they was able to halfway pull the wool over y'all eyes, talking about we came from fucking Africa. But when you do the research in the Middle Passage, you find that 98% of the motherfuckers that was dropped in the islands. The rebellious niggas. That's why they left them there. They didn't want them rebellious niggas influencing the minds of the good, docile, indigenous people of the land who loved each other so much that we went out our way to help one another without question, because that's how we roll. And so, every now and then, a situation arises where the highest ranking ancestors has to be called forward through a system that the indigenous people has set up. This system, commonly known in the southern United States as voodoo, or known in some of the Latin world as brujeria, or Santeria, or hoodoo. Sometimes it's called Abantu, which is of the Bantu. And then you have the practices of the priests of the Zulu land. Now, you don't understand if you don't realize that the Zulu is to Africa what the Hopi was to North America, South America, Central America. The Egyptians of Africa was what the Mayans, Aztecs, and Incas was in varying dynasties over here in North, South, Central America. So the indigenous, we can read the history from our DNA. In meditation, you can see as if you was there from your elders' eyes, as if you was at the event. And that's why we had to make sure we always have what they call the watchers. The watchers are the ones that we have to lay eyes on the dirt and the guilty parties so that the innocent don't suffer for the afflictions or the transgressions of the wicked. And the innocent can be redeemed if they made a mistake versus being consumed with wickedness. And so, yes, and the Toltec. Now, we had alliances across this land that ensured that we did not have come into conflict with one another, and they used our own system to oppress us because they show you the truth and they tell you don't look at it, right? If you go to your Declaration of Independence, it tells you that there's powers of this earth. When your inalienable rights are compromised and there is no redemption and you cannot form a coup, you can call on the powers of the earth, and these powers of the earth will come forward as an ancestral force within us to give us the abilities to answer the grievances that the people are vexing. Now, when this takes place, we wake up in rank according to the difficulty of the task before us. The higher rank, the last one to call, is the highest rank, number 7, who got what they call the gorilla keys. He got to have the kangaroo keys, which is Australia. He has to have the bear keys, which is North America. The gorilla key is Africa, right? Then he has to have the leopard key or the jaguar key, which is Central and South America, but that's the priest key of Central and South America. In Africa, it's the leopard. Over here, it's the cougar, jaguar. In Africa, it's the leopard, which you'll see the Egyptians wearing the leopard skins, right? This is the priesthood. So now, it's 7 total keys that he have to have that represent the 7 chakras. The base one is the control of the lower energies of the self.